It's Aaron Dorr here with Iowa gun owners with an update for you guys on the fight to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, not just here in Iowa, but across the country. Some major news, major developments in this effort to nullify Biden's gun control agenda, and it's taking place in red states all across the country. We're going to break that down in today's broadcast, guys. So get signed in. Someone give me a microphone check. We're going to wait here for a moment. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. And once the crowd builds, we're going to kick off this broadcast. You know, a lot of gun owners are watching the session wind down. It very likely could end as early as today. Maybe it's going to be tomorrow. Almost certainly this week. But folks, there is still time for our pro-gun legislature to do the right thing here and fix the concerns that gun owners have with Joe Biden's war against our gun rights before adjournment yet this year. So guys, come on in. Let me see some comments in the comment section. Your comments always help the video be seen by more people. That's why we ask you to let us know where you're watching from. I see Dennis Pulse is already in here. Good to see you, Dennis. I see Brad Meyer from George is in here. Good to see you guys getting on board. So, guys, here's the thing. Just last week, I had the privilege of being in Jeff City, Missouri. I've always been a part of the Missouri Firearms Coalition. I was in the Capitol most of last week in Jeff City as our sister organization, the Missouri Firearms Coalition, successfully passed the Second Amendment Preservation Act into law, or at least through the legislature, in Jeff City last week, Friday. Now, kind of similar to what we experience here in Iowa on a regular basis, we have a whole bunch of moderates in the legislature in Missouri, and it was a big fight. It was not an easy thing, as you could imagine. It never is, with so many anti-gun Republicans masquerading as pro-gun. But at the end of the day on Friday, the last day of session in Missouri, the legislature passed a monumental SEPA bill. And what it would do is very similar to what our bill here in Iowa, House File 518, would do. What it would do is nullify Joe Biden's gun control agenda by requiring Missouri police officers, that's city cops, deputy sheriffs, state troopers, all city, local, county, and state officials to only enforce Missouri law when it comes to guns, ammunition, or accessories. Now, this is called SEPA. You may have heard it called sanctuary status. The point being that at the state level, the state legislatures have the constitutional authority to enact the laws that they think are best for their state. And as the Constitution says, and as the Supreme Court has upheld since the 1700s, anytime federal and state laws contradict, the states absolutely have the sovereign power to ignore and order their state authorities, state resources, again, city cops, deputy sheriffs, state troopers, to not enforce laws that contradict with state law. And there are literally over a dozen different cases that deal with this at the Supreme Court level. The court has always held the federal government may not simply commandeer, that's the phrase, it's the Anti-Commandeering Act. The feds may not commandeer state resources to enforce federal laws that the state does not agree with. So we have an absolute right as a state to do things, to pass laws that contradict federal law. If we didn't have that right, why would we have 50 states in the first place? So we know we have the right in the Constitution. The Supreme Court has upheld this literally in cases going back to the Fugitive Slave Act in the 1700s, all the way to cases as recently as 2018. They have upheld this right. So we know we have the legal and the constitutional and the moral right to do this. The question is, do we have the legislative guts to get this done? That is the question. Now, in Missouri, not only may the local police officers not enforce federal gun control laws, but if they do, let's say a big city police department like St. Louis says, you know what, screw this, we're going to enforce Joe Biden's executive order banning AR-15s. Pick something out of your brain. Or we're going to enforce a federal ban on magazines over 10 rounds, something that Joe Biden signed into law, right? If a department head chose to ignore state law and enforce one of these future federal laws like this or executive actions in Missouri with the bill we passed down there, the individual gun owner who was harmed by this could sue that department in civil court. They don't have to wait for the Attorney General to get involved. They don't have to wait for a statement from the legislature. They don't have to ask anybody else's permission. If the state or local authorities come to your home to take away your guns pursuant to a federal gun control law or executive action, they could be sued in civil court immediately. And the minimum damage is $50,000 per occurrence. And so only the biggest cities in the state would ever risk something like that. And so for the most part, now in Missouri, any federal gun control laws, any federal executive actions that deal with guns are dead on arrival. They're dead on arrival. And we have the same prerogatives here in Iowa. The question is, will the legislature do their job and make it happen? Because at the end of the day, all of the incredible gun laws that we have on the books, our stand your ground law, or constitutional carry law, our right to own AR-15s, for example, magazines as we deem necessary, all the laws that we have, our self-defense laws, all these things, it doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot if Joe Biden can just get pen happy and start signing executive actions, making them illegal. And so we need to see red states and the legislature in red states standing up and fighting for us, and we have to see it now. And so just to be clear on this, when our sister organization in Missouri had this legislation pre-filed in December in Jeff City, we also had this filed early this session. I want to say early January, or mid-January, early session anyway, by Representative Jeff Shipley, House File 518. And it's the carbon copy version of the bill that we worked on in Missouri. So we have this bill. It's ready to go. It's been sitting there, though, and held back by House leadership all session long. All session long. So that's the question. Will they get off their butt and take care of this or not? Because with the session close to adjourning, I get it. Everybody wants to go home. I understand that. But that means that we're going to sit here for 7 months, give or take. Well, Joe Biden can do whatever he wants via executive action. And who knows what they can pass in the legislature. So we have to wait 7 months now and see what happens. And then maybe next year they can deal with this. I don't know about you, but that just seems ridiculous to me. We don't have a divided government here in Iowa. We don't have Democrats that have any say of any kind anywhere. And yet we're going to have to sit here and hope for the best for the rest of this calendar year, and just hope that Biden can't pass his gun control agenda in D.C. and hope he doesn't take any more actions against us via executive action. But for anybody who already has an AR-15 pistol brace, and I know tons of guys that love those items, well, I guess sucks to be you, right? Because we're not going to deal with this. We're not going to protect you because unless they pass House File 518. And so we're already seeing Iowans, this is my point here, that are being impacted, that are being restricted by Biden's executive actions against our gun rights, and that's already happening. And our legislature is sitting back fawning all over themselves because they finally passed constitutional carry. Now, here's the deal. That's great that they finally did the people's will and passed constitutional carry. But understand that over a third of the country already had constitutional carry. We are late to the party, especially in red states. We are very late to the party. When it came to stand your ground law, we were very late to the dance. Finally got that done, but well over 35 states already did it. And we're still having to deal with this problem as recently as 2017. And what's more, we were one of the very last states that have enacted shall issue law to actually do it. almost every state, saving the coastal states, the Northeast and the Northwest, almost every state in the country had already enacted a version of shall issue before Iowa finally dealt with this in 2010. I think Wisconsin was the only state that was later than Iowa to enact shall issue. So I don't know about you, but with a pro-gun majority that likes to, quote unquote, fight for gun owners, I think it's high time that they deal with the most pressing issue of the day, which is Joe Biden's attack on our gun rights at the federal or congressional level. And if we don't have action on House File 518, then we are going to sit here helpless unless we can stop Biden's agenda in Congress. But even then, we're still helpless to deal with his executive orders. And so we're going to sit here now for the next 7 months hoping that Joe Biden doesn't do anything, hoping that if he does, we can stop him in court, hoping that nothing too bad happens. But I can tell you right now, these Democrats are not going to sit back in D.C. and just wait. They're not going to just give us a pass. The moment they believe they have the action, the votes to take action against our gun rights, they're going to do it. And there are definitely national events that could accelerate that. God forbid we have additional mass shootings in this country, but we all know that when these happen, these bloodthirsty, soulless ghouls, the AOCs, the squads, all these people, the Ilhan Omars, and all the rest in D.C., they know this is our chance to try to advance our agenda. So we don't know what's going to happen over the next 7 months. And now we're going to be stuck here waiting and hoping that nothing bad happens. Mark Baker says, I'm wondering why they don't just pass it now. Just follow the money. Someone is supporting them. Yeah, that could be a part of it. That could be a part of it. Dennis says, they need to show us they are for protecting our rights by passing SEPA, what they finally did with constitutional carry. And that's my whole point. We were late on constitutional carry, very late. They were late on stand your ground law. They were very late on shall issue law in 2010. I don't want to be sitting here in 2027 still trying to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act. And we shouldn't have to deal with that. It shouldn't be that hard of a lift in a state that has the kind of majorities that we have here in Iowa. I'm going to post a comment, guys, in the comment section right now. And if you're going to watch this later on YouTube, or if you're watching this in an email or wherever you're watching this, look for the link to sign your petition in support of SEPA. We need SEPA. We need to have these protections on the books to defend our gun rights before Joe Biden takes action, not afterwards. Not afterwards. We need this now. And again, Missouri, our neighbors right to the south, just passed, by far and away, just passed the nation's leading version of this legislation. It has real teeth. So maybe you've seen Nebraska has passed a sanctuary status. Let me tell you something. Nebraska has exactly this much enforcement capability. So it counts for nothing. It counts for nothing. So Arizona passed a version of this. Many states have passed versions of this, but without teeth to enforce it, it literally counts for nothing. The version that Missouri passed has teeth. The version that we have filed here in Iowa, House File 518, has teeth. The question is, does our legislature have the guts? Do they have the guts? Sign your petition. Tell them to take action on this because we can't wait around forever. Jesse says, whatever happened in getting our rights added to the state constitution? That passed, Jesse. Now it has to go to the people of Iowa for ratification in the upcoming election cycle. So be prepared for that. That's going to be later on. So, guys, that's where we are. We're seeing red states across the country right now taking seismic steps to protect law-abiding gun owners. And while we're getting some improvement from the Iowa legislature, we're not getting what we ultimately need, which is protection from federal tyranny. That's why we have these separate sovereign states. That's why we have separate sovereign legislatures, so we can have laws that are different here in Iowa from the laws in California or New York or Oregon or any place else like that. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't count for a whole lot if our legislature won't do their job. Patrick says, what the heck is our Republicans waiting for? That's the question, Patrick. They're sitting back hoping that they're going to get a pass because they passed a big gun bill this year. You know, are we thankful that they finally did what we told them to do? Absolutely. We're thankful that we've got the policy, but they didn't do it because they wanted to, and they didn't do it when we wanted them to do it. So did they do something good? That's great, but they don't get a pass now. It's like my 5-year-old son. When I tell him to clean up his room, if he did it, Monday, he's not going to get a freebie tonight when I come home if I find his room to be a mess. Like, you have to do your job all the time. And it's the exact same way with our legislature. They have to do the job that they are hired, in this case, to do. They've been hired to defend our freedoms. They have been hired to defend our constitutional rights. They swore an oath to do all that. And we want to see it happen now, not after the damage has been done, right now. So, guys, take a moment, sign your petition. Many of you already have. I appreciate that very much. Sign your petition. Share our video on your social media platforms. Share it on Telegram. You can share it on Twitter. Link to it right from our page. Get the word out. Session will be adjourning very, very quickly, but they still have time using leadership tactics, leadership amendments, leadership bills to get this done today. They better do it. Tell them to do it. Sign your petition. Share our video, and we'll keep you guys informed, and have a great day. Thank you.